We today are going to take a minute, 50 minutes to be exact, to just do a little thinking and a little contemplating. I don't know about you all, but that's the part of my job that's the hardest, is carving out time to just think about what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it. Most days it's the tyranny of the urgent that tends to want to take over and drive everything. So with that, we've got some esteemed panelists today, highly esteemed. We're covering an interesting array of industry here. So the perspectives should be really fun and fantastic. And so I'm just going to let you all introduce yourselves and talk about your day job a little bit, and then we'll jump in. Start with you, Estrella.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm Estrella Parker. I'm the Chief People Officer for Cupertino Electric, Inc., which is one of the largest electrical construction firms in the country. And for the most part, right now, we operate all over the U.S., depending on where the projects are that we are building, mostly data centers and renewable energy sources, primarily, solar farms. And we're the largest construction company in solar and battery storage at the moment. We've been growing fast and double-digit growth for the last 10 years. And recently also got acquired by the largest craft worker employer in the country, Quanta Services. So we've been going through a lot of change, and so I'm very excited to reflect on those experiences today.
Make sure everybody can see my flare, okay?
Yes.
Does that resonate with anyone else other than me?
Hoosier.
Jeremy Sprecher. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for one of 9 hospitals that Norton Healthcare operates in Louisville, Kentucky, and Southern Indiana. One of the unlucky ones in healthcare, I should say. The interesting part that I'm born and raised Southern Indiana, but I'm also born and raised, my only career and job has been at Norton Healthcare. So 25 years, started literally in the payroll department, have gone through some very interesting job and career paths, and somehow landed in operations of a hospital. I'm still trying to figure it out, and my wife's still like, what the heck happened? So 3 years now as a chief administrator at this hospital, it's been quite an eye-opening experience as a business major to try to understand the healthcare landscape and the healthcare change all the time. So not nearly as fun as this guy sitting next to me that you're getting ready to hear about. But anyway, thank you all.
I don't know. That's fun. Congratulations, Indiana, by the way.
Thank you.
So my wife and I went to Georgia. We got knocked out early, so it is what it is. So David Hawthorne, I am the Chief People Officer. Go Dogs. I am the Chief People Officer for Anchor Point Management Group. We are the 8th largest restaurant franchise in the country. We operate Taco Bell, Buffalo Wild Wings, 7 Brew Coffee. We're also in health and beauty services. We're the largest franchise of European Wax Center in the country. We also have joint chiropractic clinics, physical therapy. We basically have 14 different companies that we operate in 25 states. When I started with the company, not as long as Jeremy, but when I started with the company 24 years ago, we had 65 Taco Bells and 1,200 employees. Today, we're a $1 billion company with 15,000 employees. So change has been the entree on the menu for us going forward. So looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you all. This is going to be a good chat. I want to start with a little inner self reflection. So maybe, Estrella, I'll start with you. To get us started, how do you personally stay grounded and clear-headed during periods of rapid change? And are there certain habits or disciplines that you have found essential for maintaining your own effectiveness, your own balance?
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good question relative to this topic, because in the environment of change, and especially in our roles, we tend to be the facilitators of healthy change in organizations, right? It's really important to be grounded as a person. early in my career, I found myself very, very stressed a lot. And so I learned about yoga and meditation. And so, fortunately, yoga was something I practiced since college. And that has a little bit of meditation, but I doubled down on meditation over the years. And it really, it's so magical to have that skill because a breath is so powerful. Like it can just ground you. And even as you're, in arguments in the boardroom or whatever around very, very difficult things, you just take a long, deep, meditative breath and you can kind of see more clearly. So those are some things I do. And I spend a lot of time in nature and I love to paddleboard, which is great. Also, I do believe like water is a great, energy absorber. So just release it in the water. So
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. How about you? How do you do it? How do you do it?
Any psychiatrists in the room? I want to make sure I'm not setting myself up here. So one of the things that I found, and it goes back years, I was just talking to Dave about that. I ran the marathon down here 10 years ago, and that's the last time I've been to New Orleans, and it was absolutely crazy, by the way. But for me, typically it's a walk or a run in the morning when it's pitch black. So there's nothing else going on, and I can really dive into maybe some issues or things that are going on and connect that back to what the goals are. We all have goals in our world. And so I try to take this barrier or obstacle or whatever's kind of bothering me at the time, and then I can take that, tie it back to how I'm going to get to where we need to go. And then I make sure that my team is on board. And if what I've found over the years is that the team starts to think that way, like, okay, listen, here's where we're going. Don't let these barriers or obstacles deviate where you're trying to go. And then it kind of helps you de-stress that your team is de-stressed on, what you're trying to accomplish. So that's my thing. No judging, please.
I don't do anything early in the morning when it's still pitch black. David, how about you?
Very similar. I don't endorse a lot of things, but I'm a strong believer in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So if you've not read it, read it. If you've not read it recently, read it again. Really good. But sharpen the saw is the 7th habit. And much like Estrella and Jeremy, I work out regularly. I can't meditate. I have this mental block around shutting my brain down. I can't do it. So that doesn't work for me. But certainly, the exercise does. And I think in the heat of the moment, one thing I've realized too, and I think a lot of this just comes from age and what I'll loosely call wisdom. Whatever change you're dealing with, whatever stress, there's something more important out there that's happening that you need to stay focused on. So I like to be that level-headed person on our team that just kind of, no matter what walks into my office, and we're a lot of us are in human resources. A lot of stuff walks into our offices, right? When that thing walks into our office, it's always kind of, okay, let me put a smile on and let's figure out how we're going to do this and kind of go. So, because being that level-headed person, being that role model for everybody else that, hey, our hair's not on fire. There's no need for us to run around like it is. I think helps a lot. And so that really is how it is. When I don't meditate, I do read fiction quite a bit. I always have a competition with my daughter on how many books we can read. She always beats me because I think she has more time than I do. But I read a lot, and that's really kind of my escape. I don't work on airplanes. I'm on airplanes a lot. I don't work on airplanes. I read a book. And that just helps kind of de-stress as well. So.
I love that. I love all those answers. I'm gonna try a couple of those things for myself. Well, now that we've kind of thought about our own selves and what grounds us in our leadership, I want to kind of pivot to those whom we lead and those who we are responsible for stewarding in their careers. So, what practices do you find effective for equipping your own leaders to model the kind of behaviors, consistency, and steadiness that you seek to demonstrate? How do you sort of equip them to do the same?
You want to break up the cycle?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit about like my last insight around leadership. Leadership, I think, is really strong when you're doing it as a community practice. So it's not just about individual leaders, but about the community of leaders that are in your organization. So when I joined Cupertino Electric almost 5 years ago, they didn't have a leadership program, but they had a lot of strong leaders. And of course, we were growing fast, so we were worried about the new leaders that we were bringing on. And so my leadership development team was looking at, programs to put together with all the skills and competencies. And I said, that's all fine and good, but this place is unique. And it's how they lead together that we have to teach. So we talked to the leaders, right? Different leaders, the strong leaders, and tried to articulate what was our leadership brand, what are the tenets of how we lead, how we apply those different skills. And so our leadership program is really grounded on those 3 dimensions that we have identified. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about different skills, we talk about how do we apply it against these 3 leadership anchors that we have. So that's sort of our leadership brand DNA. And so it creates community in leadership. And so when you have language around that as a group, then you help each other deal with leadership challenges and issues and be supported in your growth as leaders.
I love that communal approach. That's a really interesting perspective. Thank you for that. I'm gonna mix it up. David, how do you take on that challenge?
For me, working with, I've got 5 direct reports. There are 30 some people on our team, and for me, one of the first rules that I have for my team is, if you've got something to bitch about it to me, not to your team, because you're just going to spread the stress, right? And then when they come to me and say, hey, this isn't working right, or whatever, I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm always hoping for the best, but I tell people plan for the worst. So my question is always, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, if it does, what are we going to do? So just kind of be proactive and kind of be thinking about it. You're always going to have those black swan events like COVID that nobody ever sees coming. But almost everything else, if you sit down and think about it long enough, you can see it coming down the road. And how do you avert it? How do you prepare for it? And really, then when it happens, the team at least has already had some thought around it. I think that helps a lot. But certainly, everybody's going to have a time when they're stressed and they want to complain about it. I'm that vent for them and should be, not their own people, not their peers.
Thank you. That's very, very sound wisdom. Okay, Jeremy, I kind of know a little bit about the complexity of your world with the both of us in healthcare, and there's a lot of hair on fire. So how do you manage that?
So it's a little interesting, and it was developed over time. But when I first went to Brownsboro Hospital, I was at another one of Norton's hospitals for 10 years. As their VP of Finance and Operations. So I had the luxury of learning a lot from my current leader still. So she's now over all the hospitals. But the one thing I did when I went to Brownsboro is I knew no one. And I built a grid for leadership development. So this sounds maybe a little analytical or finance related, but I said, okay, well, what does a nurse manager have to do? And what does a radiology manager have to do? And you think about that, and in the healthcare world, if there's no harder job than a nurse manager, just to be clear, it's unbelievably difficult because they get pulled in every direction. So I said, okay, let's put together a grid. How many grievances? And grievances are where a patient's not happy. What are the patient experience scores? What are their employee engagement scores? And really tried to understand where they were being successful as a nurse leader, or again, all the other ancillary departments. And then I pulled in our leadership development team and said, okay, folks, here's what the employees are telling us about their leader, right? We have engagement scores and leader competencies as a group of questions that they get asked. And so worked with that leadership development group. So their specialty, business, leadership development, their specialty is developing leaders. And much like probably in everyone's world, we promote great techs or we promote great nurses, but they may not know how to lead a lick. And so really partnered with that grid in mind, really partnered with the leadership development team to focus on the individual and how can we help them be successful in leadership. Proud to say that after the first year, our engagement scores went up by 5% in our leadership competency scores. Our engagement scores have gone up rather, but our retention has also gone down by, I don't know, it's like 3.5% the first year. So we're doubling down on that. We've had promotions, we've had folks leave and, you know, some good, some bad. And so we're really doubling down on kind of that energy of really evaluating all the things that the world needs us to be good at and focusing with our specialty groups to do that. So that's kind of what we did at Brownsboro. And
That's great.
It's an awesome, it worked out great so far. So
That's great. Good examples. I think we might have had a comment.
Hey, I wanted to comment on what David had said about telling his team, you know, if you want to vent, come to me. It is something that I have applied to every team I've ever managed. I call it the vent up. You know, and my team will call me and say, hey, I need a vent up opportunity. So, you know, you always have to make the time and just listen to them and acknowledge their reality, right? There. And in this organization where I came in, engagement was at 50%. And just this tiny little thing, this implementation of vent up, engagement has gone from 50% to 100%. And this is based on surveys, employee surveys. So it does work, and I just wanted to point that out and second your.
Yeah, thanks. I totally agree, and it really makes us a more transparent team when they get the opportunity to do that. So I totally agree. Glad you've seen the same thing.
There's a sense of not only belonging, but that you care, right? That you make time for them to hear what they have to say. And to them, it's sometimes it's venting, you know, like just complaining, but to you, as you get a feel for what's going on the floor, where you're not entrenched, right? Because you're somewhat separated from what's going on in the day-to-day. It helps them feel.
It does. And I've even gone so far as to set expectations for my team. If you bring something to me, you know, that, hey, I want to do this or whatever, there's three possible responses. Yes, let's do it. No, we're not going to do it. And here's why I don't think we should do it right now. Or I don't have enough information. Let's come back to this at a certain time. Yeah. And they understand that. And so even when they're told no, they understand that's an expectation. So again, it helps with that transparency.
Yeah. Good. One more comment over here.
Dave, thank you. We met years ago. I always love your calmness and how kind of chill you are. But you have a bottled liquid fire that you know about and I know about. We've got to share it with others. Is you're teaching your folks to stop being firefighters, because people teams the world over model themselves and act like firefighters versus planners, doers. I've done this in hospitals, I've done this in consulting, I've done this in manufacturing. And this is always the case, is he's got a duality there, the listening one, but trying to get these people to evolve more into a consultancy, more into a planning group, more into execution versus, hey, we worked 70 hours this week and look what we done. Oh, we're great. No, that's not where we need to be as people teams now and in the future.
Yep. Thank you very much. Let's talk about how you're helping your teammates, your employees, your associates be informed, motivated, and I think importantly, how do you help them know how their work directly connects to the goals of the organization and our ability to impact those goals? So let me start with you, Jeremy.
This is one of my initiatives this year that IT is really frustrated with my pushing on is I feel that at least in our organization, we haven't adapted to connecting the information that the employees need to know and we want them to know with where the employees get their information. So We have, 80-year-old nurses and we have 20-year-old nurses. And the 20-year-old nurse gets their information a heck of a lot different than the 80-year-old nurse. They may not even do social media like me, but at the end of the day, the one thing that we're really trying to focus on is transitioning to being able to reach every single person. And so what we're working on is creating a platform of communication. It's almost like this is probably the wrong terms, but the social media app for Norton Healthcare, right? So this is everything you need to know. Today's benefits, tomorrow's, change your deductions. Today is this great story on we're a comprehensive stroke center and we saved this person's life and this new technology. And so really 10-second reels going out about Norton Healthcare. That's my goal. That's what we're working with IT on. They're telling me it's extremely expensive. My finance world's telling me we're not doing that. So how I am doing it currently is probably a little old fashioned, but it's really that three-way communication with the team. Anytime I'm in the hospital, I'm doing everything I can to be in the hospital and not in my office, and really having that three-way, hey, how you doing? What can we do to help? Them give me a situation and me making sure that I follow up with them. So that's kind of my style currently, but I really know that I have to transition to connect with people all the time so that they know that there is stuff going on behind the scenes that impacts them and the patients all the time.
Appreciate that. David, how about you?
Very similar. We've got 500 locations in 25 states with people spread out in 4 time zones. So, for us, we've got to leverage the same kind of diversity of communication that we do. People will send me a video and I don't want to watch it. I'll run it through an AI and have it do a transcript because I can read the transcript in 90 seconds for a 5-minute video. So that's just how I work. So I'm not going to watch a video if you send it to me. But some of our people are only going to watch a video and they're not going to read a text message, they're not going to read an email message or what have you. So, organizationally, that's kind of how we do it. If we've got a message that needs to go out, we'll send it out 4 different ways so that somebody's going to get one of those 4 kind of methods. Internally on the team, we have set expectations around the different ways that we communicate as a team. We've got email, we've got Microsoft Teams, we still text each other. And I've told people, if you send me an email, expect a response in 24 hours. It's not urgent, it's out there, I'm going to read it, I'm going to get to it, but it's nothing that's, it's not a hair on fire moment that I've got to get to. If you send me a Teams message, I'm going to get to it within the hour, because I'm either in a meeting or on a call or what have you, we'll kind of get to it. If I get a text message from you, somebody's hair is really on fire and I really need to go take care of it now. And so as a team, that's how we choose to communicate and set those expectations so that we know, hey, I got a ping that an email came in. I can ignore it because it's not going to be an emergency and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how we do it both organizationally and within our team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Australia.
Yeah, those are really great answers, and we do a lot of similar things. Actually, the marketing and communications group reports to me. So we do have a lot of programmatic things we do. And we have a particular style because, again, we're in construction, so it's very approachable, reachable. And we're in social media. We do a lot of story features. We do quarterly town halls, and we have watch parties. And we do a lot of culture activities. The one thing that I'm going to add, because all these things apply to us too, like getting it in different ways, because we have 5 generations in the workplace now, 4 or 5. Aside from that, I would say that the one thing I would want to share that's really important as a practice to us leaders is that when we have the opportunity to recognize people for a job well done, connect it all the way to, the organization. It's not just, oh, you did a great job with this analysis or spreadsheet. Like, you go beyond that and say, because this will help us do X, Y, Z in our, which is one of our strategic goals this year. And it helps them see their part in the larger picture. It's just like, if everyone does that, because we thank our people all the time, like you're doing that you're connecting the dots for them. Interestingly enough, last year in our engagement survey, actually the number one thing, with all this deep AI analysis, they can tell you what factors affect the most in engagement. This year it's belonging. Last year it was connecting the impact, having a person understand how they impact the larger organization. So we did double down on that as a group, and so it's not really that much of an issue right now in our organization. Now belonging is our number one issue, which is hard for our organization. Our engagement scores are actually really, really high. So our analysts were actually telling us your challenge is very difficult because it's been high and it's been improving every year. And so it's getting to be really more about like the only way you can go is down. And so it's a defense position that we have to do around engagement.
I love though that very nuanced thing of saying, thank you for the work you did because it's going to allow us to reduce, time and analytic or whatever that may be, that's going to drive this particular outcome. That I'm going to be very mindful of that as I go back as well. Thinking about your comments, David, a lot of my workforce is Gen Z, and they're a hoot. But you cannot get them to read or look at anything unless it begins with a really good GIF. You've got to have a GIF, and I mean, you got to have a good one, and that is what it's going to take to get it done. So I really resonate with your channels there. In thinking about change efforts, gosh, a lot of them don't go the way we hope on the outset, but every now and again, something kind of magical will break in our favor. And I'd love to hear about when you have sort of leveraged a particular strategy or way of thinking or intervention that you believe now in hindsight had a disproportionate impact on a positive outcome. And in hindsight, you may be looking back and saying, man, that was a stroke of luck right there, because that was not necessarily intentional on my part. But what has wisdom taught you in that regard? And I'll let anybody who wants to weigh in there go ahead and start us off.
I mean, I'll start. The one thing that you can expect is change. And a lot of leaders want, to create stability or to defend the status quo or assure people that things are not going to change, because that's what keeps people calm. But the actual thing that happens is change. So as an example, right, when we got acquired, our acquirer was saying, we're not going to change anything. This is how we work. We just buy the companies, let you operate, let you shine, and it's help you in the market and the network, but nothing's going to change. And so my CEO, of course, wanted to relay that information to everybody, right? And I go, do not do that. Do not do that. Things are going to change. And even if they're not changing because of the acquiring company, they're still going to change because we're going to drive change. So the setup is really important to create an organization that expects change and that everyone knows their role in change. So some of the things that we're doing lately, because we are dealing with a lot of change, is getting more structured around how we think about change initiatives. Like, who's the executive sponsor? What does an awesome executive sponsor do? Who's the project lead? What is the difference between a project lead and a project manager? So we're getting more structured around it because our scale is also getting bigger. And then as people leaders, right? We always have to mind the culture and the values of the organization, because if you keep that healthy and if you keep that the thing that people can expect to be there, You know, how you deal with people, how you handle situations. Like our values, we always center everything we do around those. So that's the thing that makes people feel stable. Like when we roll out, like we rolled out a bunch of compliance things. So when you go from private company to public company, of all this compliance stuff. And we doubled down our messaging on integrity, why this is important, why this is good, and all of that. We doubled down on our messaging on values. So I think those are some of the things that I've seen work really well. And then money speaks. You know, we have given bonuses to everybody around success, around some of our change initiatives. So it's like everybody wins because it takes everyone. It's not just the people who drove the initiative. The people who received the initiative also was part of making a change successful. So
They may be the
Those are some
most
things.
important part of making the change successful.
exactly.
The willingness to receive it. Any other comments?
I would just add, it's still fresh. It was a 8 o'clock meeting right before I flew down here, and you know, I bet all of you have you're part of an organization, and then you run a specific portion of your organization, and so you have your initiatives that you're pushing forward, and then you have the system has their own ideas of what you need to be doing, and right before I came down, address the leadership, and address sounds like a little, you know, maybe a little aggressive, but making sure that they know, hey, listen, these system initiatives, they tie right exactly what we're doing, and here's where we're going. So let's not let anybody else in this hospital think that this is one more thing that we're asking you to do. Here's where we're going. Just tie it all together, and that's something to Estrella's point of trying to leverage, you know, these tactics of, hey, no. Don't let this distract you from where we're going. And don't let this think like it's another bullet point on your list of things to do. It's really all the same if we're trying to get here. Keep focusing on the tactics to get there, and this stuff will kind of blow over, you know. So it's
That's good.
real fresh.
That's good. That's
You
good.
know, I'm going to go back to, you know, expectations. We've been a growing company since I joined it. And so I'm 24 years with the company. And one of the questions I get asked when I'm interviewing candidates for a company is, you know, hey, why have you been here so long? You know, and really two reasons. A, I love the people I work with. And B, it's a different company every single year. So if you're coming to work for us, expect that. It's not going to stay the same. You know, 5 years ago, our founder had the dream of being a $1 billion company. We hit that in 3 years, and then he said, now we're going to be a $2 billion company. I fully expect when we hit $2 billion, we're going to be a $5 billion company next. And that's just the expectation, and to have people know it. And, you know, we make sure that when we bring people in, especially to our support center, our home office, if you will, that they understand if you're the kind of person that likes to have your to-do list checked off before you go home, we are not for you. So time to get up and walk away now, because you'll never get your to-do list checked off. And if you're comfortable with that, we'd love to have you on board. And so setting those expectations, I think, is critical to getting people engaged in what you're doing and not afraid of, hey, this is going to be a different company every year. You know, we do acquisitions regularly. We just acquired 21 Taco Bells in the Southeast United States 3 weeks ago. And one of the things we do to make sure people know that, you know, to your point, things are going to change. I hope that you appreciate the change, but they're going to change. And we meet with the team members who run the drive-through to let them know that's going to happen so that everybody understands kind of, again, what the expectations are.
Thank you. Good thoughts. I want to circle back, Estrella, to some comments you made earlier. This next question, I think, is pertinent to that. As leaders, we all need to create conditions, really at every level in the organization, where teammates feel agency, right? Personal agency, and have role clarity anytime we're asking them to go with us through a change. How do you sort of approach that opportunity, and how do you help, or what strategies have you found useful to help teammates feel that they are truly part of the change and it's not just happening to them?
So I do want to emphasize our job as chief people officers, HR leaders, or even operational leaders, right, is to create that environment that enables everyone to really be part of and be proud of the organization they're operating and building. So what does that mean practically for us in my company? Our leadership style is the approachable leadership style. It also has a servant leadership tenet to it. We don't use that word, but we are very approachable leaders. We are servant leaders. We are about the people that we are leading. When you do that, it translates to how you do everything, right? So you get people's input. If you don't have the chance, because, sometimes it's truly a hair on fire thing, right? You still pause and make sure everyone's with you, right? We're going this direction. We can't talk about it because it's urgent, etc. Are you in on it? Are you in? I do this literally. Like, I ask people, I look at them eye to eye. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you on this? Or
It's like sitting in the exit row. Working with you is like sitting in the exit row. I'm going to need a verbal yes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you don't have the chance, right, to get everyone's input, but we have been saved so much in our change initiatives by just going out there, either doing surveys or just getting little focus groups to tell us, hey, we're about to do this, we're about to roll it out this way. And, people point out things. And we knew that if that wasn't raised at that time, it would have made those change initiatives difficult. Yeah. So if you create that kind of environment in your organization where people call me, we tell them in our orientation, we always have at least 2 executives present, and we tell them, you can call us anytime. And nobody in the organization, our managers, we don't want them to say, run everything through me. We're very open. You can talk to anybody about anything, and that helps, I think. So our job is to create that kind of environment so that people have agency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
I think that when you do any kind of change, we just recently went through a very, very large HCM change at our company. So massive, right?
What was your HCM?
I'm going to tell you where we came from, but we went to Paycom. We had a very rough exit with our last one. So we just implemented Paycom in our organization. So it impacts 15,000 people, some more than others, but it impacts 15,000 people. And really reaching out to those individuals and letting them know, this is what's changing. This is why it's changing. This is your role in that change. One of the things I like about Paycom and what they do is they kind of measure the employees, each team member's interaction in the system. And they actually measure whether a manager went in and changed somebody's W-4 for them or whether the employee actually went in and changed their own W-4. So really for us, it's really educating the employees on, here's your role in that change. I need you to log into the system. I need you to look at your tax setup. I need you to look at your demographic data and make sure it's all accurate. And that's your agency in that. And then as we implement the system and things begin to intertwine, they don't always connect correctly. Anybody who's ever put an HCM in knows it never works the way you think it's going to work. And so, we're kind of dealing with that stuff. It's really about, okay, how do we find the right way now to make this work? Because this way we did it the first time wasn't exactly right. And so one of the things that we do in our organization is we do as much as we can to allow people room to make mistakes. And give them that leash, if you will, to be able to go out and try things and do things without having to worry about your job, right? If the perfect handbook for me just says, I shall not lie, cheat, or steal, because those are the things that'll get you terminated. Other than that, go out and make mistakes and let's learn from it. And let's figure out what we're going to do. So.
Thank you. I like the brevity of that handbook. That's good.
If I could do a handbook without the FMLA language in it, I could probably do that. But as it is, I can't. So.
It'll mirroring what my 2 counterparts said up here is it's interesting, and I'll kind of tie it back to, again, Coach Signetti, and he makes it clear that this is your job. You're a defensive end. You're an offensive tackle. You're a quarterback. Here's your job. When you do it successfully, we all win. So We talk a lot about connecting with the people. I am a very, big people person in the hospital all the time. I know most everybody in the hospital, and making sure that they understand that you have their trust to do their job. And if they need something, they can connect with you. So it's going back to what David's talked a lot about setting expectations. I think it really helps the folks boots on the ground is what I call them, trying to accomplish the task of patient care, making sure they know that. So kudos to my people officers.
Very good comments. Well, I think we have about 5 minutes, and we're going to just wrap up with this question. Of course, it would not be a proper conference if we didn't talk about AI. So this is going to be, this is volunteers only on this one, but curious if anyone's using AI or bots or Copilot or anything in a way that's really kind of materially impacting the effectiveness of your teams, or really any insight you've had around the use of the robots to do the work. So I'll let you all decide what you want.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this, Amy, and so again, I'm one of 9 folks that run hospitals, and the biggest single most important impact that we've had on the implementation of AI is in the revenue cycle world. Amy and I can share the pain around denials from insurance companies. And so the AI technology that we're utilizing really helps us look at the denial code. If there's something about documentation, it gets the documentation from Epic and sends it back to the insurance company to help us really speed this cycle up of trying to collect what we actually performed. So that's about the single most impactful that I've heard about. And I did lobby to my boss recently, as we talked about, to be a part of the AI committee that Norton Healthcare has, so that I can at least voice my opinion on what the AI checklist looks like. And I can say, hey, this is the most impactful to patient care in a hospital setting. This is my opinion. So anyway, thank you for the question.
Yeah, love that. Any other comments?
Yeah, we're very much in our infancy on AI, as a lot of people are, and I think some of it has just been really around the sensitivity of confidential information. I mean, from an HR perspective, you just can't drop your employee census into AI and have it do work on it, because now all this PII is out there for the world to see, right? So we've really kind of restrained our HR teams, but where we've really found leverage this past year has been with individual development plans for our managers to be able to do. One of the biggest questions we have around performance appraisal time, and we can argue about performance appraisals another time, but is that development plan. How do I help this person get the skills to go to the next level? And AI has been a powerful tool for us to be able to give people the prompts that they need to go in and say, hey, how do I generate a development plan for a financial analyst who wants to be a director of finance? These are the skill sets they're good at. These are the things I really need them to work on. And it's amazing what ChatGPT will spit out for actionable items somebody can take to make themselves better. So I think that's been the most impactful thing we've seen, to be able to leverage that without having to drop people's names in and all those other things that's scary about AI.
That's great. That's great.
I have nothing to add. In our industry, we're not pushing AI to grow the market. The market is there. Mm-hmm. Everyone's using AI, so we have to build all these data centers and sources of energy. I would say that we are teaching them more about cautiousness in terms of information and how they use it. Like, use our internal one in the firewall. Don't use the external ChatGPT. So I would say, and then the other thing is, because the talk, of course, especially I'm in Silicon Valley, the talk there is how many people have lost their jobs because of AI, et cetera. So for us, it's like, we are not AIing to be more efficient. We are growing really fast. Use AI, please, to be more productive so we can do more. And so that's kind of like, so people are using it. And of course, different generations use it, are faster adapters, and they show there's a reverse mentoring going on in the organization. But, so it's all about the individual, like meeting minutes and if you show up late in a meeting, it will show you what you missed, and those kinds of things. That's kind of how we use AI in the organization.
Very good. All right, guys, I think that brings us to our time. I think it's time to get coffee and head to our next session. But I just want to thank you, David, Jeremy, and Australia, for being with us today, sharing your insights. I know it was a great way for me to get some good tips and start the day. So I just wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day and tomorrow. And we'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.